I came to playwriting late. I spent most of my life writing and publishing short fiction. And something came up where I had a chance to, well, I had a book contract under negotiation with a very large publisher in New York. And I was thrilled at that possibility. This was many, many years ago. And because everything I'd done before that had been published by small presses. Well, the contract fell apart because I got the revisions in when requested, and I got the changes in and so forth, and I didn't hear anything. So I called my agent in New York. I said, I haven't heard from Mr. Harris. She said, let me call around there and see what's happening. She called me back about half an hour later. Mr. Harris has been let go. His successor is not interested in your book. And I got angry. I thought, oh, she said, do you want to do some more revisions? I said, no, this is like the eighth draft. I don't want to do any more revisions now. If somebody has a deal, I'll make revisions then. So I decided I was going to be done with fiction. I never really am. I couldn't quite be, but I was ready to walk away. And I went around the corner to my favorite comic book store, and the owner there, and I was talking to him, and he and Randy, sitting in the back, Randy was there, and he said, well, we want to do a stage version of the silent film The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, a 1919 German expressionist horror film. Are you interested in writing a script? I said, yeah, I'm not doing anything else right now, sure. And so I did, and that play was well received. And I thought, well, maybe I should have been writing plays. And I went on to write Matter of Intent, which was very well received. It sold out almost every night in Buffalo. It went on to production in London, and it won the Edgar Award from Mystery Writers of America, which said to me, you know what? You need to start thinking about down the road. Some of your stories are mysteries, but you seem to have a knack for this, so go for it. But anyway, I said I was going to embarrass Randy, because Randy was in that production of The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. I titled it Sleepwalker to make sure that people knew it wasn't exactly The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and that's now the subtitle. But I do have a copy up here, and you'll notice that in the cast list, the chief constable was played by Randy Rumley. I have planned for you today 3 things to read. First, I'll stay with plays a bit. I'll talk about The Mark of Cain. As my bio suggests, on occasion I act. I enjoy acting. I don't want to do it full time because I retired at 62 2 years ago, so I could spend more time writing. So about 5 years ago, I was in a production of Inherit the Wind. Do all of you know what Inherit the Wind is? Play? Okay. How many of you know what the Scopes trial is? A few of you. Okay. Back in 1925, in Tennessee, a teacher named John Scopes was arrested and charged with violating Tennessee state law, because Tennessee state law said you cannot teach any theory of creation that does not coincide with the book of Genesis. And so it became known as the Scopes monkey trial. It was a very dramatic situation done in a hot Tennessee summer, and the 2 people fighting the case were the prosecutor, who was 3-time failed presidential candidate William Jennings Bryan, who was a speaker on the religious circuit, and attorney for the damned Clarence Darrow, who represented lots of unpopular people. It was very dramatic at the time, and Bryan died not long after the trial. And a couple playwrights turned it into a play called Inherit the Wind. It's a fictionalization. Well, I was in Inherit the Wind, and we spent a lot of our downtime between scenes talking about the trial and about Clarence Darrow. And that had happened because I auditioned for the play because I had taught it for a number of years. It's one of my favorite plays. Several of the actors knew Darrow very well. A couple of the actors were lawyers, and they knew his case as well. And so as part of our discussions, I was thinking about other dramatic possibilities. Well, Tammy, my better half, and I mean that, she really is a better person than I am. Tammy gave me a book of Darrow's later trials. His last big case is Leopold and Loeb, the Scopes trial. Leopold and Loeb, you may know from the movie Compulsion. If you haven't seen it, it's about two college students who considered themselves geniuses committing a murder to show that they can do the perfect crime. Then one of the geniuses lost his glasses, and the other one typed the ransom note for the body they left on a typewriter that was traceable to their frat house. Anyway, they were geniuses. Darrow defended them with the idea of getting them not off, but out of the death penalty, because he didn't believe in the death penalty. So he had that case, the Scopes trial, and the third big case before the end of his career was the Ossian Sweet case. Ossian Sweet was a black doctor in Detroit who bought a home in a white neighborhood in 1925, and he and his family, including two of his brothers and a number of friends, were there on the second night when the house was attacked by a mob of between 500 and 700. They threw rocks at the house and threatened lynching and other such things. Somebody in the house pulled the trigger. Turns out it was Sweet's brother, Henry. Somebody in the house pulled the trigger, somebody outside died, and all the adults in the house were charged with first-degree murder. The NAACP, at the time the NAACP, the AA came later, engaged Clarence Darrow to be the lead attorney. So that was a dramatic case that tried to establish in law that whatever the color of your skin, you had the right to defend your home. Well, I thought that would make a good play. And there have been a couple plays that have dealt with it. One is Arc of Justice, and those plays did not go very far because they were docudramas. And docudramas try to tell the truth as the truth is. And frequently when you're writing stories, reality doesn't conform to a good story model. So I fictionalized the case, and I made it the Mark of Cain. Ossian Cain is the doctor, and he's older than the actual Dr. Sweet. And he has a wife and a baby, and they're real. The real Ossian Sweet had a wife and baby. But this Cain has a 19-year-old daughter from her previous marriage and so forth. And to cut through the clutter, there's nobody else in the house except one brother, not two, no other friends, and so the family is essentially on trial for murder. And the NAACP engages Charles Durham, my version of Henry Drummond from Inherit the Wind, which was their version of Lawrence and Lee's version of Clarence Darrow. So it's a courtroom drama, a murder trial, and it has the twists and turns of a murder trial, and I hope a couple surprises. The biggest surprise to me, because I was directing the play, was last week the lead actor had to withdraw for health reasons, which left the part of Dr. Cain uncast. What were we going to do? Well, I know the part, and I have a little stage experience, so I'm taking the part, and we're in the process of locating or positioning an assistant director or a director to take over. Because I'm not in half the scenes, and I can direct those scenes, but it's hard to direct yourself because you can't see where you're standing and so forth. I'm going to read to you a brief scene, scene 3 from Act 1. And I will try to change my voice to represent the different characters. Now, before we go on, let me explain who the characters are. Oh, by the way, the Mark of Cain, the title, you may not know that in the 19th century and in the early 20th century, fundamentalist preachers sometimes considered black skin the mark of Cain. Okay? And that has been used to justify oppression. And that becomes one of the themes. So the play is rooted in the past, but when you hear some of the things that people are saying, like take our country back and so forth, you'll see that it also has, in addition to 1 foot in the past, 1 foot in our present. Scene 3 has Cain's wife Alice, his daughter Lisbeth, his brother Marcellus, and attorney Charles Durham. Lights rise on the small table, but the room is empty. There is a sound of heavy doors unlocking. Alice and Lisbeth enter. Lisbeth ranges about, nervous and afraid, while Alice is more stationary. From time to time during the scene, both women cough, Alice more than Lisbeth. Why are we here, Alice? What are they going to do to us here? I don't know. Maybe they're going to let us go. Papa said that if he... No, they're not going to let us go. A man died and somebody has to be locked up for that. But no matter what happens, we can't let your father sacrifice himself for us. Do you understand? Yes, ma'am. We must find a way to endure this as a family for all our sakes. Then are they going to beat us? Make us talk about what happened? Or maybe... Elizabeth, stop. When I was your teacher, what did I always say? Alice, this isn't school. This can't be fixed with words of encouragement. Elizabeth, what did I always tell you, all my students? Carry yourself as a lady for no one but yourself. No matter what, remember that you are a lady and a Cain. So far, all we've been is locked up. We haven't been beaten yet or brutalized. Don't let your imagination take us to unseemly places we haven't gone. But I'm afraid, Alice, some of the women in our cell. I'm afraid too, but not of those women. Most of them live miserable lives, but Rose is the only one I suspect would hurt somebody. Stay away from all of them, but especially her. I understand. I'm more afraid for your father and Marcellus, and most of all for Ella, their little baby who was taken when they were arrested. Doors squeak. Cain enters. The three rush to embrace him. Ossie, Papa. I've been worried sick about you for a week, both of you. Thank God you're all right. Papa, why are we here? Did they tell you? Ossie, what have they done to you? Just bruises, Alice. Nothing I can't live with. They beat you. They beat you because you're a Negro. It wasn't the police, honey. It was Big Sam. Who's Big Sam? A colored man they put in our cell for a couple days. They brought him in drunk. When he sobered up and found out I was a doctor, he said I thought I was better than he was. Then he hit me for no reason. Twice, the rusty-legged fool. Oh, Ossie. But I hit him back. I hit him back good, maybe 9 or 10 times, and I knew where to hit him, too. He went down hard, and I'd have kept on hitting him if the men hadn't pulled me off him. No-account Negro screaming in my face because I finished schooling. He didn't have the brains to start. After days in that cell with no way to wash, no tooth powder, having to relieve myself in front of others, after all that, I'm almost ashamed to say it felt good to hurt somebody. Ossie, the man I love is a healer. You can't let them change you, make you a lesser man. They already have changed me, but I won't be a lesser man for anybody. Papa, was Uncle Marcellus with you? No, they told me he was in a hospital ward with guards by his bed. The doctors had to take his eye out. Alice, have they told you anything about Ella? The matron said she's in a foundling home until all this is settled. Good, at least we're all alive. Where there's life, there's possibility. You'll get her back, I promise. Don't make such a promise if... Oh, the cell we're in has quite a draft. We share a single bunk for warmth. The draft in August? It is damp beyond reason. And there are these women who don't look healthy at all. They're not the kind of women Lisbeth should associate with, ever. I don't say anything to them except hello. Just keep it that way, polite and nothing more. Ossie, what are we going to do? The matron said it could take months to get a lawyer. We can't be away from Ella that long. Inspector Gruber tried to tell me we couldn't have a lawyer. I had to quote the United States Constitution to him, Article 6 of the Bill of Rights. I told him that as a citizen I was entitled to counsel. Did he enjoy the civics lesson? Alice? I know it must have felt wonderful to show that white man how smart you are, Ossie. To show him you're not only smarter than he thought you were, but smarter than he is. You've always been righteously proud, and I've never been anything but proud of you. But we need more than your pride to put Ella back in my arms. We need a lawyer. I met with a lawyer 2 days ago, a colored man named Robinson. He'll take the case, but it's going to cost us a lot of money. We'll probably have to sell the house. Sell the house? We just bought it. Alice, I know you love the place, but we spent almost everything we had on it, and whatever was left we spent ordering furniture. Furniture we didn't even get to sit on. What about the garden I wanted to plant next spring, and the sunroom next to the kitchen, and the wallpaper we planned for the baby's room? We don't have any choice. I've tried to confess, but they say there has to be a trial. Where are we supposed to live if we get through this? I can't think about that right now. The only way to get you and the children and Marcellus out of this mess is to let Robinson take our case. If he can get them to accept my confession and let you all go, what makes you think they'll listen to a colored lawyer any more than a colored doctor? Don't you see? They won't let us go. They mean to kill us, all of us. I know that now. There's the sound of heavy doors unlocking and opening. He said the money would take time, but maybe there's a buyer and he's here to start our case. Presently, Marcellus, now wearing an eye patch, enters, and they all rush to embrace him. As the next few lines are given, Charles Durham, carrying a briefcase, steps in behind Marcellus, but no one notices him at first. Uncle Marcellus! Brother, I am so thankful to see you. No more than I am to see all of you. They just moved me from the hospital to the jail. Are you in pain? I'm better now, but at first it was like a toothache in my whole head. It still throbs terribly when I try to sleep, as if closing my remaining eye puts a strain on where the other one was. It will take time, but the pain will lessen. You're alive. That's all that matters. Just being with all of you gives me hope. Dr. Kane, I'm afraid you're going to need more than hope. Who are you, sir? Unless you object, I'm your attorney, Charles Durham. Did Mr. Robinson send you? I don't know a Mr. Robinson, at least not in this town. I was engaged by Dr. Kane here, the other Dr. Kane, to represent you all. One of the cleaning ladies in the hospital was colored, Gladys. She talked to me one night while the guard dozed off in his chair. She got a message to the local NAACP. They sent to Chicago for Mr. Durham. Chicago? Aren't you the man who defended those 2 college students who killed a child and that biology teacher in Tennessee? I am. Mr. Robinson said I'd have to sell the house to pay him. I expect you're going to cost a little bit more than he does. Did he offer to arrange the sale while you're here in jail? Why, yes. You shouldn't have to lose your house when you got thrown in jail for defending it. How am I to pay you? The NAACP is paying, brother. The NAACP? Why? I've declined their offers of membership since long before we left for France. I'm a member, but it doesn't matter. They say this case is about freedom, the freedom to protect your own home no matter what color you are. When I leave here, the first thing I'll do is find your Mr. Robinson and put a halt to any sale he's trying to arrange. We'll need that house for evidence. I don't understand. I'll have my investigator examine your house, take photographs of damage that will prove you were under attack. No, I don't understand why you're doing this. They can't pay you enough to defend us all. Dr. Kane, as you no doubt see, I am an old man and successful. Truth be told, I've made all the money I need. Sure, I'll take payment, but if for some reason the NAACP can't pay, I'll still serve as your counsel for all of you. When I got word of your case, I knew the cause was just. What about that business in Chicago, those 2 cold-blooded killers from rich families? Was that a just cause? Yes, the state of Illinois wanted to execute them. I don't believe in the death penalty. 2 wrongs don't make a right. Something like that. And even rich monsters are entitled to a defense. It's in the Constitution. They got life, didn't they? Life plus 99 years, which is 99 more than I was seeking. Mrs. Kane shakes her hand. And you must be Elizabeth. Just Lisbeth. Hello, Lisbeth. So now this state wants to execute you, Dr. Kane, and maybe your whole family. If I didn't believe in the death penalty for a pair of unfeeling killers, I surely don't believe in it for a man defending his home from a mob. I say you can be stubborn and prideful sometimes, but Mr. Durham here is our best chance. Let him help. I can't do life in prison, sir. I'd rather die. And Alice and Lisbeth? A man's home is his castle. That's a firm principle in English common law and the American law that followed it. You shouldn't have to go to prison for keeping your castle safe. Defender of the damned. Ah, see. I'm not swearing, honey. No, ma'am, he's right. That's what the papers call me sometimes. I'm just recognizing this situation for what it is. What's that? We are the damned. Welcome to the club. I've been a charter member for a long time, and I'm going to try to get you through your initiation with your skin intact. With all due respect, Mr. Durham, you chose to join this club. You can walk away at any time. We were members at birth precisely because of our skin, and our initiation never ends. Then I apologize for my flippancy, Dr. Kane, my poor attempt at humor. The sons of the men who damned your fathers now plan to kill you. Let's start figuring out how we're going to stop them. Blackout. I began my writing career doing fiction. How late do we run, by the way? Uh, to so okay, because I want to leave time. Okay, I began my writing career writing short stories. I was 10 years old and I went to a public library and checked out Ray Bradbury's R is for Rocket, and the writing was exquisite. And I thought, I want to do this. I want to write stories. And I told my parents that, and my mother had always read to us. She was the one who took us to the library regularly. My father never stopped me from reading anything I put my hands on. But my mother encouraged me, and my father gave me a typewriter. I want you to think about that for a minute. This is my novel, Blackbird Rising, is dedicated to my parents, who always encouraged me in my reading and writing. But I said to my father, Daddy, I want to be a writer. He said, well, you're going to need a typewriter. You can't send things to publishers written by hand. Tough task, but I learned to type. And I still type the same way with 2 fingers, although I do about 40 words a minute, which is usually the rate at which I'm composing, so it kind of works out. Anyway, as I said earlier, my pivot to playwriting came because of a collapsed book deal. That book was eventually published by another press at another time. And winning the Edgar Award said, you know, you really do need to just focus on mystery. I mean, I had a traditional academic career, which included articles and research and other kinds of things. But toward the end of once I had tenure, I was free to do what I wanted to do in that department. So I ended up doing a lot of popular culture research, and I'd always been a voracious reader. I put away 70 to 100 books a year on all kinds of topics, just because I think as a writer I should be a generalist. I should know a little bit about everything. Okay, I'll give you just in the play at the very beginning, as part of the attack, Ossian Cain's brother Marcellus has gotten glass in his eye from a broken window. The window broke inward into his face. And I did some research on how that would work in terms of hitting the eye, the level of pain you would feel, and so forth. And so I could incorporate that. Well, as it turns out, the actor who was playing the prosecutor had an accident on his property and got a stick in his eye. And he was telling the cast this the other night, and we're all sitting there horrified. Well, most of the cast is going, oh, that's the grossest thing I've ever heard. And I'm thinking, what he's saying is exactly what I researched, and I do think writers should know a little bit of everything to make work convincing. In any event, when I started to focus almost exclusively on mysteries, because I wrote what would be called contemporary fiction. I wrote some horror, some science fiction, some fantasy, a little bit of everything, because I read a little bit of everything. When I decided to focus on mysteries, I thought, you know what Buffalo doesn't have? Now think about this. If you look at New York City, there's a lot of fictional private eyes. Mike Hammer, Matthew Scudder, et cetera, et cetera. Look at Los Angeles, Philip Marlowe, Saxon. Look at Chicago, V.R. Wachowski. Look at Boston, you've got Spencer and Sonny Randall, both from Robert B. Parker. Buffalo doesn't have a private eye. And I thought years ago, I should give Buffalo a private eye. And I'm pleased to say that Nickel City Blues, the first Gideon Rhymes mystery, was recently purchased by Black Opal Books. Buffalo's going to get its own private eye series. I'd like to read you the first chapter. I can only read you a chapter because my contract specifies that I can't publicly share more than one chapter. One chapter is supposed to generate interest in the book, but more than that is too much. And that's probably the most interesting passage in that contract, because I've signed other publishing contracts before, but they limit you to sharing one chapter. I thought, that's cool. Brief word about Gideon Rhymes. He is an Iraq war vet, and I have a son, David, who did 3 combat tours in Iraq. And David is now a policeman in Florida, where he lives with his wife and children. And my guy started off as an Army cop and eventually, left that. But he has some of my son's qualities and some of my qualities, and his godfather, who raised him, has some of my qualities and some of my cousin's qualities, and I mix everything up because that's how you do fiction. You take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and you throw it into a pot and see how it settles and see what works. In any event, I was happy to sell the book. I'm already 5 chapters into Nickel City Crossfire, the next book in the series. I'm dropping the groundwork for the 3rd book in the series, Nickel City Storm Warning, and I'm kind of happy to be doing this in my retirement. My plan is to write a novel, write a play, write a novel, write a play, write a novel, write a play for the rest of my life, however long that is. And when you do acts 1 and 2, and stories tend to have a 3-act structure, when you do acts 1 and 2, in life, act 3 should be an absolute joy. Chapter 1. Indigo Waters held the wireless microphone in her left hand as she moved amid tables full of wings and sandwiches and pitchers of beer. She was small and curvy, with short black hair and skin like whipped chocolate. Her huge amber eyes glittered like the sequins on her clinging copper gown, even in the muted light of the Anchor bar. The voice that shook the autographed celebrity photos on the walls of the nominal birthplace of the chicken wing had extraordinary range and clarity. It seemed too big to come out of such a small woman, too old to belong to someone barely 25. Some of the patrons this Friday night in early October moved their lips along with her on Nighttime is the Right Time, fingers tapping tabletops. Others kept time with the band, but most of them just watched Indigo in rapt silence. The crowd was a mixture of young and old, black and white and brown, sports jerseys and sports jackets, tight jeans and casual dresses. Some were obviously suburban, having driven into downtown Buffalo from Amherst or Williamsville for a night of theater before stopping off for a snack. Others, wearing hockey jerseys and carrying foam fingers, looked as if they had come from the Sabres' victory at First Niagara Arena. There were college kids and gangster rap wannabes and old-timers who couldn't shake an outdated pimp look, and tourists who couldn't stop staring at the antique toys and sports gear and musical instruments hanging from the ceilings, or the multi-state license plates on the walls, or the vintage motorcycles mounted high in special brackets. As far as I could tell, it was an ordinary Friday night in one of the Nickel City's best-loved establishments. I sat alone at a small table opposite the bandstand, nursing a Corona and picking over the last of my suicide wings. I was in a perfect place to watch the main dining hall, the bar beyond it, and the parking lot entrance, as well as the emergency exit in the front of the building. My positioning was no accident. I had been hired to keep an eye out for the man stalking Indigo Waters. "He's a big guy," she'd said in my Elmwood Avenue office the day before. In jeans and a print top, she was seated in one of the metal-framed client chairs in front of my desk. "I mean, you're no midget. And you'd look a lot scarier bald instead of having those big salt and pepper curls, but he's bigger than you. And he doesn't wear glasses, and he's younger." "Young men can be dangerous," I said, "especially when they don't wear glasses." She ignored my stab at humor. "He's a real cop, so you being black won't matter to him either." Her southern accent gave an inescapable whisper of music to her speaking voice. I wasn't surprised. I'd seen her sing before. "Mr. Rhymes is a real cop," the lawyer said, "or he was. Navy suit tailored to fit her tall, thin frame and medium-length black hair tied back to reveal the oval of her face, Phoenix Trinidad sat in the chair beside Indigo's. Though we had never met before she had led her client into my office, each of us had known of the other because my godfather, Bobby Chance, was good friends with her mentor and law partner, Jonah Landsberg. But it was apparent she knew more about me than I did about her. He was career Army, an MP. He served 2 tours in Iraq, then went to work for the CID and earned an advanced degree in criminology before he retired. "What's CID?" "Criminal Investigation Division," I said. "Army detectives." Indigo scrutinized me closely, considering. "He came home and took a campus police job at Buffalo State," Ms. Trinidad said. "He went from Army detective to rent-a-cop?" Ms. Trinidad shook her head. "State University police have exactly the same training as New York State police. But Mr. Rhymes didn't stay long," she hesitated. "After 2 years, he left and got a PI license." Indigo shifted her gaze from her lawyer to me and back, as if waiting for more. I leaned forward and looked directly at Miss Trinidad. "You might as well tell her the rest of it." I hoped she would, because I didn't like talking about it. Deep brown eyes never leaving mine, she smiled sadly, almost apologetically. I found myself appreciating the contrast between her apricot lipstick and light cinnamon skin. Mr. Rhymes resigned from the campus police force after a shooting incident left 2 dead and a police officer paralyzed. Indigo's already large eyes widened. You killed somebody? Yes, I said. Who, a student? No. I sat back. Mr. Rhymes did what he was trained to do, Miss Trinidad said. He neutralized the threat. She paused, and I thought I saw sympathy flicker in her eyes. He killed the killer. One of the killers, I said. The other one survived. You shot them both? Yes. Indigo looked at Miss Trinidad. When did all this happen? About 3 years ago, before you came to Buffalo. She patted Indigo's forearm. So this man is the real deal. He can protect you. Indigo looked at the real deal again, curly hair, glasses, and all. I considered smiling, but decided not to. We studied each other for several seconds before she asked, Who was he? His name was Marv Tull, I said, resigned I would have to talk about it, think about it after all. I pulled off my stainless steel frames and tapped my lower lip with one of the stems. He and his cousin Jasper went on a killing spree in Pennsylvania and were on the run to Canada when they stopped here. They ditched a stolen car in Delaware Park behind the art gallery and crossed over to Buff State. They were in a campus lot jacking a replacement when my partner and I rolled up on them. I think I heard about that. For a moment she looked past me, processing all she'd been told as I tried not to think of Solange Aucoin with a bullet in her left eye or Jimmy on his belly, lips kissing asphalt as blood pooled around his midsection. The daughter of Parisian professors, Mademoiselle Aucoin, had come to Buffalo State for graduate study in special education and was, by all accounts, delighted to have picked up a used yellow Hyundai 2 days before she died. Jimmy Duran had slipped into his uniform and duty belt early that morning, kissed Peggy Ann goodbye, and walked through his front door for the last time. I seldom thought of the other victims of the shooting spree. Tull's parole officer and the people who died for their cars, the 7th grade teacher waiting a red light in Pittsburgh, the vacationing Kansas couple in Erie, the old woman and her 10-year-old grandson in Jamestown. The split second it took me to read the emptiness in Tull's eyes had not cost them their lives or their ability to walk. Sometimes that split second feels like a century. The only thing that shortens it is the indignation I feel whenever I remember Jasper Hellman tried to sue me from prison over his colostomy bag. Lower lip caught between my teeth, I slid my glasses back on. Then Indigo said, He's still bigger than you and younger. And a real cop, I said. I looked at the lawyer. So why me? Why not go to his district commander or file an order of protection? Ms. Trinidad smiled again, beautiful white teeth, a gotcha smile if I ever saw one. I hoped you'd want to help somebody you care about avoid embarrassment at a critical time. You see, the man bothering my client is Kenneth Carnahan, bodyguard and personal driver to a friend of yours, Mayor Ophelia Green. As Randy mentioned, I have done public radio essays, and I have also written poetry. And I'm going to close today with what has become my most widely published poem. I did it first as public radio commentary not long after 9/11. And then it has shown up in it has shown up in 2 magazines, the Buffalo News, and a poetry anthology. And it's like, wow, okay. You can decide if it's any good. It's called Evil, an Abridged Autobiography. And when that's done, we'll take questions. In the beginning was the worm, and the worm was without form, newborn and hungry and writhing in the fledgling human heart. I was the worm, and you fed me the wet purple strings of your own soul. Hunger taught you to kill for your belly, but I taught you to kill for a belly laugh, to wade through viscera with a smile. Jack-booted and wrapped in many flags, gloating behind the many masks of God, I have walked all the battlefields of time. I have watched you fall by the millions beneath the studded wheels of imperialism, manifest destiny, racial supremacy, caste systems, class systems, ethnic cleansing, collectivization, and other blind ideologies. And laugh while whipping my bat-winged horses forward. I lashed backs that built pyramids and grew fat inhaling bloody dust in the Roman Colosseum. I dined with Vlad the Impaler in a forest of death and slipped into witchfinder dreams at Salem. I piloted the Amistad and gave the sick to the sea and held down the slave women I told you to take. I introduced poverty to women in Whitechapel and offered them a deliverance from hell named Jack. I taught Rasputin to preach and Lenin to write and little Joey Stalin to rise above his stature. I turned on the gas at Auschwitz and Treblinka and later licked the cyanide from Adolf's lips. From lynchings in America to sati in India, from plowing ruined flesh into Cambodian soil to sacrificing Ogoni lives for Nigerian oil, from the extinction of indigenous peoples to the honor killing of veiled rape victims, I have been everywhere, caused everything. I shred hungry children and child warriors with concertina wire boots, Israeli, Palestinian, American, European, Chinese, Indian, African, child appetizers in the endless feast of souls where I peel skin from history's sacrificial lambs before tearing into them with yellow fangs. As I once walked slave quarters by night, I stalked the floors of far-flung factories, whipping away those who sleep beneath their sewing machines, forcing the fearful to immerse their arms in toxic sneaker glue, parting reluctantly with every penny I pay. Later, I shoot out another mosque window and pour smack into another vein, poison into another sky, and anthrax into another envelope, before sharpening another box cutter and boarding all the planes. Whom should I bomb today? Nuclear, perhaps? I stop to think, why not? I am a shadow parasite as old as time, a blood suckling as young as this instant. I gorge myself on your fear and your hatred. I am pain fed to ungainly size, swollen to ungodly proportions, but always small enough to find another way into your heart, which I consume slowly from the inside out. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Was the poem about the devil?
And not so much about the devil. I don't believe in the devil, but I do believe in evil. So it's about that part of what's in us that pushes us down that path where we do the unspeakable. And yeah. Yes?
What's that movie or thing that you said about the guys having the perfect plan of a terrorism like that? What was it called?
Wait. What did I say about a perfect plan for killing?
Geniuses.
Okay, yes. That's the Leopold and Loeb case from 1924 in Chicago. That was real. There is a movie based on that called Compulsion, wherein Orson Welles plays Jonathan Wick, who is a variation of Clarence Darrow. Yes, they decided they were, and I've done a lot of lectures on classic murder cases. I had a lecture I did for a number of years in a number of places called Murder, the State of the Art. As being a mystery writer, you research real murder cases. Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb were two college students, and they were tandem killers, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But they decided to demonstrate their superiority. They would commit the perfect crime, and they killed a little 14-year-old boy named Bobby Franks. They sent a ransom note to his parents, and then his body was found in a culvert sometime later. And when I've given my talk, I've always said, yeah, they were geniuses, because one of them, and I believe it was Leopold, dropped his glasses. And so even forensic science wasn't that well advanced in 1925, but they could certainly take glasses to an optician, figure out the prescription, then take the numbers around to all the opticians and find out who'd made this particular pair, which police did. And the ransom note they typed, if you want to get away with murder, don't type a ransom note. Anyway, the ransom note they typed on a typewriter in their frat house. And the thing about typewriters is that typewriters are almost as individual as fingerprints, because their usage causes changes to the keys, and when you can start analyzing the type, you can pinpoint the typewriter. Well, they got caught, and they went on trial, and the case horrified everyone, and they were on trial for the death. They would have been executed, and at that point, the death penalty was carried out with the electric chair, which was invented by a Buffalo dentist, Alfred P. Southwick, for those of you who are interested in trivia. So they were on trial for murder, and Darrow was their defender. He acknowledged they did it, but he basically threw them on the mercy of the court to be better than they are, not to kill them, and that being in prison would be a stronger sentence. and they were sentenced to life plus 99 years, which is more than he was seeking. Leopold got out in like the late 50s and died not long thereafter. Loeb was killed in prison. And now the thing is, I said they were tandem killers. You find lots of cases in the history of homicide where you have two men who will act as killers, or sometimes a man and a woman, and there is a dominant partner and a submissive partner. When you have tandem killers, whether they're the Lonely Hearts Killers, where the woman dominated the man, and there's a film about that with Salma Hayek as the woman who's controlling the man who helps her kill. And you look up the real Lonely Hearts Killers, you see the woman in that case, she was like 3 times the size of Salma Hayek. So, I mean, that's a whole other story. Anyway, tandem killers work kind of like that, so that there's a dominant submissive role. And even as late as something like Columbine or the Washington Snipers, you'll see a dominant and submissive partner. And that says, now, it's a relationship. It may or may not be a sexual relationship, but it has the connection of a sexual relationship. And in the case of Leopold and Loeb, it was decidedly homoerotic, though there's no evidence they actually acted on their impulses. Lonely Hearts Killers, that was a sexual relationship. And I can't think of their names right now. Lee Boyd Melville was the boy. I can't think of the man's name. For the Washington, the DC area snipers, he acted as a father for the younger boy. So when you have tandem killers, you have a very intense relationship, and one controls the other. You may have seen it with Columbine, with Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris. Eric Harris was the controlling factor there. Dylan Klebold's mother was interviewed recently in a couple places because she's written a book. But at the time, I do recall Dylan Klebold's father saying, Dylan was confused, he was this, he was that. Eric was evil. And in Eric's case, Eric was probably sociopathic or psychopathic, meaning he had no conscience. And that is a factor for that. So, probably more than you wanted to know, but another question. We were out to dinner, I don't know, about 6 months ago, and somebody asked me a question about homicide investigation. Now, I love my son. My son understands that because he's investigated homicides, and we can talk all the time. He becomes my go-to guy for information about police procedure. But we were out, Tammy and I were out with some other people, and somebody asked a question about murder. I forget what the question was. I just rattled off stuff like that, as I just did. And one of the women who was eating with us looked at Tammy and said, "How can you sleep with him? Aren't you scared to close your eyes?" And I'm really a nice guy and very gentle, so no. Question? Yes?
So, can you tell me, like, your parents seem to really have nurtured you in your passion?
They did.
And so, did that ever like, fall apart at some point in your life?
My parents were divorced when I was 6, but they lived around the corner from each other, so I had bedrooms in 2 houses, my brother and I did, and my mother remarried and had additional children later. I had bedrooms in 2 houses, and on Saturdays, 2 houses to clean from top to bottom. But my parents, I never doubted my parents' love. I mean, there were moments where they wouldn't do what you wanted to do, and you don't love me. But that's that kid crap that happens. But I never seriously doubted their love, and they were always very supportive of me, separately, as well as together. So that was never really an issue.
Do you have siblings?
I do. I have, as I said, I have a brother that my parents had, and then after they were divorced, my mother remarried and had 4 additional children, so I have 4 siblings. And we have one brother who has rather divorced himself from the family. He's living in California. He refuses to have contact, and we return the favor. But the rest of us are reasonably close. I have a brother in DC who is a bail bondsman and bounty hunter, and he his stuff, I mean, we've gone to the shooting range together, and as a mystery writer, I have to know things about guns and yada, yada, yada. And there was this thing for ELAB, the Emerging Leaders of Arts in Buffalo. They had a big event this past weekend, a fundraiser, and the theme was film noir, and I created a mystery for them called The 10th Solution, which had 9 mini mysteries that had to be solved before you were in a position to solve the 10th solution. So I was walking around watching people reading these. What do you mean that this is such and such a case? One of the mysteries, for example, say firearms, talk about somebody putting a silencer on a revolver and walking into a boarding house and trying to shoot somebody and get away with it. Why was he caught?
The silencer probably bent.
Why not?
Because the silencer is equipped to go with a certain gun.
What do silencers work with?
44 kilograms, right?
Not 40, well, no. They work with automatic pistols because the noise of the shot comes out of the barrel. If you have a revolver with the cylinders, the noise of the shot comes out of the cylinders. So you wouldn't cover the sound by putting a silencer on a revolver. And so that's something you know as a mystery writer, and you use it, you turn it to your advantage. So, yes?
Do you have a favorite book that you wrote?
A favorite book that I wrote? It's hard to say. My play Matter of Intent I absolutely love. But I also love The Guns of Christmas, and I love Mark of Cain. And the novel Blackbird Rising, which came to me in a dream, and it's an historical novel set in Buffalo in 1901. 2 black brothers, the grandsons of a runaway slave who settled here in 1851. They build a working aeroplane with the intent of flying it over the Pan American Exposition because President William McKinley was interested in flight as a weapon of war. He gave a grant of $24,000 to Samuel Langley of the Smithsonian Institution to develop an aeroplane, as they were called, for the Spanish-American War. But Langley's designs never worked, and the Wright brothers were successful in 1903. So here in 1901, we had 2 guys who did it, according to my novel. That's entirely fictitious. And it got caught up in what's happened at the exposition to interfere with their taking their place in history. So I love Blackbird Rising. I kind of like Shimmerville, which is, it's a collection of short stories, but there's a frame story that almost makes it a novel. So you can't ask a writer that. I have 5 children. It's like asking me which child is my favorite. I can't do that. Yes?
Have you ever planned the perfect murder in your own mind? I've tried, and it involves like chopping, like freezing someone, I think. I don't know how it works. And then like chopping them up and like throwing a piece away a week, like keeping them in a freezer in the basement.
No, when I would give murder talks, I would challenge the audience to come up with the perfect murder, and I would tell you how you got caught. Because the science is very, it's the myth of CSI is that they spend all the money to do it. And I said the conditions are, you can't just kill a random person you have no reason to kill. You have to kill somebody you have a motive with, and then you figure out how to come up with the perfect murder. I know enough to know that you can't really come up with the perfect murder if there's anything that leads to any part of the chain of activity. The best way to dispose of a body is probably a wood chipper. But then the best thing to do to the wood chipper is probably to put it into the middle of a lake, and nobody knows that you've done that. Because if they find the wood chipper, they can identify the victim's DNA from the blades and the walls of the wood chipper. So it becomes problematic to do that. So I've always challenged people to do it, and then I would tell them how they would get caught. However, that idea of the perfect murder, it's worked for my daughter Madeline, who's now 26, because when boys would say things to her and get out of line, she'd say, my dad is a mystery writer and he knows how to commit the perfect murder. And they would back up. So, another question. I saw another hand somewhere. Did I?
I
Randy?
was just gonna say pigs.
Which?
Pigs.
Eat the body.
Have pigs eat the body?
They eat everything.
Yeah, that was done in the novel Hannibal as a way to commit the perfect murder. But again, they eat everything. They eat bones and so forth. But you have to have no chain that led a body to that particular place, because if they can, if you have a tire print, a purchase search on the tires can identify a car. Most cars have some sort of computer chips in them today. There are ways to track things down.